Okay, cool. I'm Idzard, and I'm from Amsterdam, and we have a small studio there called Go Robot. And I'm for the last 6 years, I think, been a freelance Dutch designer consultant, and which means I travel over the world to work in projects and to troubleshoot them and help people optimize their networks or make them run smooth. And so today I would like to talk to you a bit about how you can set up your projects to be it, instead of a one-man cowboy show, to be it a bit more streamlined and to work in a team. And next to that, often when you work on your own on projects, you usually just hack along and you type a bit and then in the end it works. And that's usually fine, but the problem is one, version control, that you save one out as version 1, version Friday final, version final Friday, Saturday morning, and in the end you have like 16 files, and then you come to the client and then you're super stressed, and you get the wrong file and it was the wrong backup and all sorts of shit starts to happen. So I'd like to introduce you to version control, which is, could help you with that. And I would like to talk about how to set up a project to be less cowboy style, but more in an organized way, which is good for two things. One, after a year, you will open up your project and you will actually understand what's there. Because I have done it like many times. I opened my own projects after a year. I looked inside, said, God, who made this horrible spaghetti? Well, I did, but I didn't remember. And so if you have some structure in your code and how you set it up, and then after a year you open it up, or another programmer opens it up and you see, oh yeah, and it saves you hours and hours of debugging and trouble. So the things I will tell you today is stuff which I have learned or use in my career. There are many different ways of setting up projects and many different ways of doing version control. So I will not say that this is the right way, this is the only way, this is the way I like it, and pick something from it which you like or which applies to your situation. As it's supposed to make your life easier, it's not like some rigid standard which you have to follow. It's more of an inspirational chat. So, first, which is useful for everybody, is how to set up your TouchDesigner project, and for teamwork or actually also for yourself. First, we need to get the proper scope of the project, so we know what we're going to build, and how long it will take and who will build what. And this is also a bit useful, so you know how much you can charge your client, without anybody being pissed off at the end of the project because they didn't get paid or they had to pay too much for what they got. So this is usually a phase which is already happening during your negotiations with the client. Like you have your first chats together, what are we going to build, what do you want, and what do you expect from us. And the client usually gave you a brief, they told already something. So you need to sort of sketch it out. So the first step, which is the most important one, is modularizing, which is a horrible English word. Modularizing means you chop your project up into smaller pieces. And every piece needs to be so small that it ideally sort of defines one function or is one area of your project. And as soon, like if a client comes to you and he has a really complex project, every complex project starts to become simpler if you chop it up into little bits and you start thinking about only that little bit and then the other little bit, and then you have all these blocks. And then for the whole project it's impossible to say how long it will take and how much coding you will need. But if you have a little piece, you can say, well, I can build that in a day. I can build this only in an hour. In the end, you come together. So to make it a bit more tangible, here's an example project. So you were hired to make an interactive installation, and they wanted to show their employees and on a nice way, they have like a large LED screen in the lobby, or monitors around. They have some company database where they pull off their super top employees who they want to show off, and but they have already a movie playback system from Random Brand, and they definitely want to use that. But they also want TouchDesigner because it needs to be interactive. So they say, well, can TouchDesigner not just render out the movies and then maybe pull out the things and then send it over to our media player, and it also needs to be random, but not too random, and they have all sorts of wishes. And they want different scenes, different effects. And when the movie is finished rendering, it needs to send some message to their media server, so it's finished, and then start with the next one. So, step 1, modularizing. How would you start? Any suggestions?
Analyzing the database.
Database, that's one block. Yeah. Pick another one. Just yell it out.
Figure out which functions you need to write, like which tasks you need to do.
Yeah.
So TCP sender.
Yeah, network, that's one. Look a bit bigger, like database, network.
Render engine.
Render engine, that's a good one.
Randomizer. Selector.
Yeah, selector, randomizer, sort of director who decides what to do what.
Effects.
Effects, perfect. Yeah, rendering. Okay. Cool. So these could be our modules, and then it's already easier because then we have like one module could be for one person or only for your task. And so the database module takes care of importing a database, reading a database, writing to a database. A director, call it now, for the not so random decisions which photos to take or when to render what. And the effects, that could be one block where they have multiple effects in it, and probably the client will need some extra effects after a while, so everything can go in there. Movie renderer, which is a block which renders out the movies. And anything network goes into the network. So, what I like to do usually is black box testing, which means that I sort of treat every block like a secret, and nobody knows what's in it, but we only want to know what goes in and what comes out. And if you chop up all your blocks into some magic stuff, but I know what I send in and I know what I send out, then it can be easier, because then somebody can work on that magic black box and you don't have to know what he's doing, as long as everything which comes out is exactly as we all agreed upon. And which makes also perfect testing, because anywhere during the project you can send a test message, something comes back, yeah, this is exactly as we all agreed. So if you want to know what comes in and what comes out, it brings us sort of to the next thing, which is a coding standard. And it sounds like exaggerated if you are on your own, but let me tell you, it really helps, and it really helps your own programming as well. Like each developer, you all have your own programming style here. If I would ask you to build a simple thing to make something blink 10 times, you would all do it in a different way, I'm sure. And that's fine, because that's the style you have learned it in, or that's the style you work the fastest in, so anything which works is usually good, especially for real-time work. So that's all cool, but when your team grows, you will need to do it in a standard way, because otherwise it's horrible to work together. And the good thing is that I sort of taught myself the hard way a few years ago, that I obliged myself to write mostly in a coding standard, and since then my code started getting so much better and so much less bugs, because before you start writing a function you already know how the function should be, and you probably have the name already, because you have sort of standard like, oh, it should be named like this, variable should be named like that. And if you do it sort of rigid, well, it should be still fun to do for yourself. Then after a year, if you open up your project, you look at it and tick, 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 and you can start typing again without searching an hour for, oh, fuck, what was that variable called, and what difficult, and it takes you another 8 hours to get back into your project. So,
it's nice, for example, sometimes for the clean of the code to read a clean code book. It's very good.
Yeah.
Example how to write a code.
Clean code book, certainly. Yeah, so what I advise is, read that clean code book, and if you have a sort of a small company, or maybe even for yourself, is set up a standards document in which you sort of write down what your coding standard is, and if you follow it along, then after a while it becomes second nature, and you don't need a document anymore, and you just happily code along. And so, where are we? Most important part of coding standard is to make the code readable. That's like the number one goal, and everything else comes from that. Like the Guido van Rossum, he was the author and inventor of Python. He had a brilliant insight, and he said, code is always much more often read than written, which means you should make your code readable because it will be read many more times than the only one time you wrote it. And if you make it readable, then it becomes maintainable and it becomes less error prone.
Maybe also self-documenting.
Sorry?
Self-documenting.
Yeah, self-documenting. So you can actually, if you have coded really nice, you can just read it like a story, and everything is sort of explains itself. Coding standards can be huge and like 60 pages long, and that's not something which will apply to any of you to find it funny. You can dig in as much as you want, but I'll just highlight a few points which are sort of important. Well, indentation, which is like very important in Python, because Python cares if you use a next line with a tab or with 4 spaces, and you can't use them at the same time. So you should sort of write down our team uses 1 tab, or our team uses 4 spaces for every time we go further. And it's a very simple thing to agree on, but it will save you shitloads of bug searching later on. So agree with your team if you use tabs or spaces, how many per indentation, and this is also something you can set in the preferences of each editor. Like the official coding standard in Python is using 4 spaces, which is horrible to type, of course, but you can set it in your editor. Like if you press tab, then it converts automatically to 4 spaces, and then it goes sort of automatically. Indentation. Next one, big one, is variable, function, and class naming. This like simple example. Do I use underscores in our variable? Do I use mixed case, which is this one, or camel case, which is that one? I think every programmer in the world uses a different one. The lesson I learned from it, I don't fucking care, as long as we all use the same one, and that's it. And I mean, yeah, there are all sorts of coding standards, and I think the official Python one is using this. I myself, I use that, and other that, and yeah, it's a preference, and it doesn't make any difference in your coding. It won't be faster as long as everybody uses the same one. So just agree with yourself which one you will use for the rest of your life, and which one your team will use. And please, variable names need to be readable. Like you just said, self-documenting code. If I read the code, it should explain what it does. So don't use abbreviations, just write it out. It's not like we have a lack of space, so just write current player score and not C player, which is super cool while you're typing, because you save 5 characters, but after a year you're reading and you say C player, what the fuck is C player? I have no clue. It happened to me a lot. And I've really seen people using var3 for their third variable, and then they complained that their code was not working and I had to fix it. It's like, please don't. It's just write it out like you would explain it to somebody else what it does. What else? Comments. Your self-documenting code. Each code should be commented. Very important. And almost nobody does it, and you should really, because it will save you so much time later on. Like each function, well, it's something you have to define, but my rule is each function should be preceded by a short comment that tells a programmer everything they need to know about that function. So what it does, what variables go in, and what does come out, and what happens when an error happens. It's usually only 3 lines, and nobody likes to write it, but please do. And yeah, actually what it is, the rule is, I think it's also in the Python handbook. Nobody should have to look at the source code of a function or a class to know what it does. You should know all by the 3 lines on top, and by the time you really start to dig in all the function what it does, then it means you have documented it wrong.
The 3 things again.
Sorry?
The 3 things, what it does, what comes out.
Oh, sorry. Can I copy that in here somewhere? Oh, sorry. The meaning of every parameter, like if the function is get player score, and then one parameter could be the player ID, and so we need to say, okay, we need to send player ID, which is ID of the player. What comes out? So you write returns the player score. What was? Oh yeah, error condition. If no player found, then it says player not found. Something like that. It can be as big or as small as you want, but this is sort of the main 3 things. So, yeah, you can look at the famous one is PEP 8, which is used for the Python core. Like all the Python programmers have to follow PEP 8.
It's kind of standard, or what is it?
Sorry?
What is it?
PEP 8 is, I'll you look it up, Python org. Can I see that here? Whoa, what's happening? Ooh, my laptop is not happy. Oh, internet. Am I still connected? Yeah. PEP 8 is the official style guide for Python code. So it means if you want to contribute to Python and write something, it has to be in this PEP 8 style. And it was authored by Guido van Rossum, which is like the main dictator. And this is a long list. So it will be too much to follow it strictly along for your nice projects that you do. But it would be wise to sort of browse through it, and like the important stuff is at the beginning, and sort of pick from it what you need. And you don't really have to follow this all through the spec, but you can say, oh, no, this is good. Oh, this is maybe good to talk with my colleagues. Oh, this would be good. There are some nice things in there. And if you look at it in the beginning, it says, as it says here, so some good reasons to ignore a guideline. As they said here, if it makes it less reasonable, please don't use it. And also be consistent with other code, and you don't have to rewrite. Do not break backwards compatibility, so you don't have to rewrite all your old stuff. They also say it here, like look to points which you can use, but use it in a way that helps you and not fights against you. Did I make that clear, or am I talking crap? So they talk here about indentation a bit. How does it work? How do functions work? Yeah, it goes into very much detail. And there's something else. Comments, naming conventions, names to avoid. Never use the character D because it's not readable if it's an N or an L. Oh, no, yeah, whatever. It goes on and on and on.
This can be also watched by some IDE. I have seen that there is mostly used this Sublime text, but
Mhm.
I think better IDEs or development environments to write the Python. For example, this PyCharm, if you know it.
Yeah. Yeah, that could help. Yeah, I tried. I do Sublime myself because the Python that I write for TouchDesigner tend to be like maximum 1 page, and not like billions.
Use Sublime for
Yeah.
smaller.
But yeah, you can get a lot of editors and the more complicated they get, they can follow you along or tell you when you haven't followed the standard. Where are we? Oh, fuck. Okay, so modularizing and coding standards. Oh yeah, so every where was our comments? So every now that we have a coding standard, we know what our modules are because we made them already. We can go to sort of step 3 is the architecture. Because we have all these blocks, but now we want to define what goes in, what comes out, what does each block do, and then in the end we have a sort of a document. It could be as simple as one A4, which just describes what everything does, and you can hand the document out to everybody, like, dudes, build this. So it's good to make a sort of flow diagram. You can also sketch it out just by pen and paper, like this is a block, this is an arrow, that goes that, just or on a blackboard, make it fun.
Sorry, do you know good software, visual software for this?
No, there is lots of them, but I actually only use pen and paper and write down the things. But there are many flow diagram stuff, but I'm not really an expert in that. Yeah, as I said before, I usually program according to the black box. So each box is sort of defined with the rules, what comes in, what comes out. And that means it's also easy for programmers to set up their module, which is totally empty, but they already write one function which already returns some placeholder content. So everybody, their colleagues, can already start working, and nobody has to wait on each other, because on the first day, everybody makes a module which already returns blah 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 blah. When I ask for a player name, then everybody, like the renderer, can already work with blah 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 blah, and then he can start building. So for our case, it is like but super basic. We can make it as complex as you want. We have the database, which was like a module, and then what was? Oh yeah, we were building that employee system to show employees on the render. So one function in the database module could be get employee, which is quite useful, and that returns a dict, a Python dictionary, which is a method of a data object of how to hold your data, and the result will be name, and then a path to the photo of the employee, and the third will be a short biography or a description of him. So stuff like this, all these functions, you really need to spell them out, what comes in, what comes out, and that should be like a document, official one, and write something down. This is version 1.2, so everybody knows, oh, in version 1.2, yeah, okay, oh, this is the function, and then everybody needs to start writing these as fast as possible, and then return some placeholder data, so then everybody can start going, yeah?
So just TouchDesigner specific, do you recommend doing like custom parameters? Like a poll that you would, for get employee, for example?
I'll come to that in a sec.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So we have the things. So now we have these blocks, and we know what comes in, and we know what comes out. Yeah. So is it a good idea to start here now? Yeah, I think so.
If you have the time, please can you talk about a little bit about extensions in TouchDesigner?
Certainly, my favorite part. Okay. So we have our modules, so we can start building. Delete this project. So what I do usually, but as I said before, everybody has a different style, but I like this because it's sort of super simple. I make a base comp for each of our modules. So database, and then oh wait, I'll install. Hey, this helps. Minimize. Database, and then what else did we have? Network. And then we had a director. And what else did we have? Effects. And did I miss anything? Database network. Sorry. Effects. Oh yeah, renderer. So then maybe put them in a little bit of a sort of logic order. The effects, renderer, director, sort of here. And then the network, maybe they're below, and the database sort of here. Okay. So this is the basic setup, and then we save this out as a new folder. Oh wait. What is a wise decision? How are we in time? Okay, I'll make a folder Idzard. So this is my working directory, and we were building a project for a lobby of a company, so we call our project lobby. Okay, and and what else will we do? We will save each component out as a tox file. So we go to the database, save component tox. We are already in the folder Idzard, so I make here a folder called modules, or even easier, tox files. And this is database.tox and save component director. And the good thing is, if you have named it already, then it takes the same name as a tox file. Makes life easy for everybody. Oh, fuck. Maybe I should get another color. Right click. Okay, right click is yellow, and left click is purple. You see that? Okay, yeah, cool. So right click is a yellow circle, left click is a purple circle. Save component, effects, minimize this. How does it work? Yeah. Okay, and then as we have saved this out, then yeah, I think we start here.
Maybe do color code as well.
Yeah.
Like this, with container.
Yeah, that's true.
Would be
Sort of hesitant which path to go. Yeah, you can also do a color code, which is the button C on your keyboard, and then this fellow here pops up, and you can color even every node. So everybody has sort of their own scheme to color things. But you can, for instance, make the network purple and the effects are yellow, etc. I usually don't do this in the main, in the root, because here my goal is at the end to have only these 4 blocks here with the whole system running, and maybe 2 or 3 other nodes, but everything should be contained in these things, which means that I personally, but everybody has their own style, I personally don't color these, but once I go in and make important nodes for input output, I usually color those. Like red is don't fucking touch this because it's referenced from somebody else, green is this is input, and so forth. You can devise your own color scheme which you prefer. Where was I? Yeah, Git. So, yeah, you can. Well, you can download source tree, but I sort of think it will not work with all of us trying to work together and then installing source tree and making a thing. But we're gonna try. It's source tree. It's for Windows and Mac, made by Atlassian, who also make Bitbucket. It's a free client. Everybody has their own preference, but I work in this one. There are many different ones. But before you can, I'll just first go along. You don't have to try to install it now because it will take you too much time. What we do is we we want version control, and how do we get version control? Version control do we get by using Git, and from current slide. Git. So what is Git? Git is a free and open source distributed version control system. It was made by Linus Torvalds, which is the author of Linux, and then he got bored with his version control and they had to switch, and then he said, well, I can do this better, and he started writing Git. And I think after less than a week, Git was self-hosting. That means he did version control of development of Git on Git itself, which sort of shows what a maniac he is. It's designed for speed. It's super fast and it's super safe. Like, it's impossible to get something else out of Git than what you have put in. And the important part is that it's distributed. That means we have one. No, there you go already. Suppose you have a ball where all your code is in. And suppose that we work in Git and I'm a new user and I want to work in that ball of code. Then you call this ball the repository. And when I start to work in it, I clone the repository. That means everything gets copied to my computer. And then you start to work in it and you clone it as well. Then everything starts to be copied to you. So all you guys have all the files yourself. That means it's distributed. So there's no single point of failure. And you can restore anything always from every client. So there's never, unless there's only one guy working on his own laptop, there's always a backup somewhere. So you have multiple backups, and in the event of a crash, everybody could push their version up, and that helps. It is made for handling everything from super small mini projects for yourself to larger projects. It was quite a stir in the community last year when Microsoft announced that they moved the complete development of Windows to Git. It was quite a shock. It was suddenly the largest Git repository on the planet, which is a huge motherfucker of 300 gigabytes. And that was a bit insane. But the good thing is, because before Microsoft got this to work, they had to build quite some extra features into Git to handle sizes like this. So it was good for everybody, actually. What Git is everything is local. That means in the past you had other version control systems like Subversion, CVS and other horrible stuff, which was always on a single server. And that meant every action you did, you had to connect and upload and download and thing, which means it was super slow. And if that server went offline, then the whole department was out of work. So everything is local, which means everything you do happens on your own computer. It means it's insanely fast. And only when you update something, you have one connection where it sends only the difference in what you did. The stages are, we have a working directory, which is on my laptop. That is where I code. I just saved out the TOE file. That's my working directory. And how Git works is you, from your working directory, you add something to the staging area. And you can, maybe the best comparison is we want to send something. So I have a cardboard box and I want to send some presents. So I say, okay, add, I want to have this phone, add this, which are all my files. And then, okay, I have enough files. And then I do a commit. And a commit means I close the box, I tape it up, and I write what's in it. And then put the box somewhere there. And then the last step, which is not in here, is a push. And a push means putting a stamp on it and sending it out away to the server where it will be backup and for other people also to work on it. So we do in a work directory, we do an add of files, and then we do a commit. And in a commit, it's in our repository. Your repository is that ball of code where everything is. The next cool thing in Git, which makes it pretty brilliant, is branches. You can compare these dots with a commit. Like I changed something in the file, this is a commit, this is a commit, this is a commit. I added a tox file, added another tox file. So these are all the steps. But branches mean you can do sort of a sidestep and build different stuff. So for instance, here we have our lobby system. And then the client asks, okay, now make one which is in black and white on a super small screen. And then we just say, okay, let's start in another version here. And within seconds, or within a microsecond, you can create a new branch of your own code, call it something else, and then you work in there, or another one, and tuck, 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 which means a sort of distributed system. Sounds a bit complex now, but I can show you in a bit. Second part is checkout. So this is our code once we have a single TOE file. Then here we added a single tox file. So this now is the state of our code, which we can check out. That means I have made this and you can check that out and you see exactly the same thing. If you checked out this part, then you see only my TOE file. If you check out this part, then you see where I added the tox file. So every version or every branch, every point you can check out, which means you have it on your system and then you also work in that version. And also the checkout is super fast, so you can really switch. Like, oh, now I want to work on that feature, now on this one. Switch between them, which makes it ridiculously easy to try freaky new experience and delete them again, start another one without ever being afraid of losing some stuff. Yeah?
But it was like mainly for text files though. Like, how does it work with a TO, with a TOE?
Yeah, that's the bad part. It works for binary files insofar that you have to really explain what's in it. I'll show in a bit, and I'll talk some more about it.
It also needs more space for binary files, because if you upload the binary file is every time loaded the whole one. But when you upload, for example, the text, only the
difference.
Small part,
yeah.
The difference.
Yeah. So our goal is to make as much text as we can, and but there's a new edition called Git Large File System, which is a bit easier for all our media and stuff. It's a bit difficult that TouchDesigner saves it in non-text files. I would love to have that. Well, actually, there is a way. In TouchDesigner, since the early days, there's already a function called TOE expand and TOE collapse. And if you do a TOE expand, it writes out your whole TOE file, your total project to a text file. But it's super unreadable, and it has all these cryptic messages in it, and it's, yeah, I find it very hard to work in, so nobody ever does. So this is a bit more complicated, but as I have here my master line, and I have here these side branches. So if I want to check out this version, I need to check out, like always, the last part, because then I'm on the head, like you can compare it to a snake of Nokia perhaps. If I'm on the head, then I can add something there. If I'm here in the middle, then he doesn't know where to add something here. So when I check out here in the middle, then Git says, okay, please be aware, you are detached from your head, because you're not on the head, you're somewhere in the middle, so you can't push anything in now. So if you do, then make sure that you are always on the head. So this is attached head, that is a detached head. So we have files, we can add them, we can check them out, and we can commit them. How to undo things is, you made a mistake, it will happen. There are two ways to undo it. You can do a reset or a revert. And what that means is, first talk about the revert. So for instance, we were working here, and then we wrote this, and here we made an error. We want to fix this. But after that, we already did a few more steps. Now I can say, okay, please revert this one. And what Git then does, it's pretty clever, it adds a new version, and this version is the exact inverse of the one where we made an error. So it actually adds a new version to your code, but then inverts the wrong one, which is a super safe way for everybody to still see it and not get confused. The other way is reset, which means we were here, we had an error, and reset just means it goes back, and this is all thrown away. So everything after that doesn't exist anymore. This is the cleanest way, because now we don't have all these errors and fixes and But the problem is, if that is a public repository where your partners are also working in, and suddenly you have deleted some parts, then things can get a bit ugly. So you should never do this when you're both working in a sort of public one. If you have it on your own computer, you can do this, because then it's cleaner for yourself. So we have revert. That's good for public.
When someone works on the part which was resetted and wants to commit it, what happens then?
Sorry, once again?
When someone works on the version which was resetted and wants to commit and push on the server,
Yeah.
that is not possible anymore, right? Because it's not existing anymore in the tree.
Yeah, I think you will get a conflict, and then Git will complain, like you will upload something, and he said, no, that's not possible because that's there, and then you have to sort of get the new version first in your system, which means your code then suddenly also has the last two parts missing. So that's the reason why you should never use reset in a public one, because then it gets a bit ugly for your partners.
Before you upload, you need to check first what version is in, right?
Yeah, well, it's the easiest part is just always use revert, and then be done with it. Then it's always okay.
It's safer.
Yeah. So what is for TouchDesigner the most handy way is the Git feature branch flow, which is my favorite because it's sort of super simple and it fits the TouchDesigner coding style. It's also called sometimes the Git hub flow, not to be confused with the Git flow. So I call it the Git feature branch flow. Why is it called? For every single feature we will build, we will make a new branch. So the first step is we have our system, and for everything we'll do, we'll make a branch. Then the second step is we will add commits to that. Like for instance, this is the database we're adding to our system. First we make a new branch called feature database. Then we add commits, like we make all the functions. And then the next step is we open a pull request. And a pull request means you select where you are, and I will show you in a bit, in source tree, you say do a pull request, ping. At that moment a message goes out to all your partners who are working there, and it says, oh, Idzard has made something, database, he says it's finished, can you please check it? And then the other guy can check it, like, well, Idzard, you fucked it up, that and that's missing because we had a coding standard and you didn't follow it. So he can give some answer, you can discuss the commits, and it's all integrated into Git to send each other messages and to talk about it. And then you can upload another fix until everybody's happy. Then you can do, this is a sort of possible step, you can do a test deploy. Say, okay, this is where we are. And then on your production server, which is in that company, you can say, oh, pull that one. Very easy, and then you can do already a test if you want. And then everything is happy, you do a merge back into the master in that main timeline, which you saw in the beginning. So, is it super dry or can you still follow along?
Okay.
So, to make it a bit more interesting, we were here and we were in our lobby and we made a file. So now let's go to create a repository. I use Bitbucket. So the repository name is lobby. This is a private repository, blah 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 blah. We use Git. Yes, please include a README. Advanced settings, we don't care. So, oh wait. Sorry, I just set the owner to a team, which means if we all have an account in the same team, then we can see each other. You guys can start creating accounts on Bitbucket if you want. Maybe we can start doing a pool later on for you. And then I press the button create repository. So now we come to this whole new website, and now it means we have a repository. This is the address, bitbucket.org, Club Kickass, because that's the name of our software company, which we just invented. And the project is called lobby.git. And here is immediately a sort of tutorial below how to add a file, how to work with it, etc. You can invite users to it, and some settings. Is there something we wanted to do already? Not.
I need to get signed up for Bitbucket Cloud with this account.
Like the most simple free account there is. Is it bitbucket.org, I think?
Yeah, I just received a confirmation email and it asked me if I want to, but you haven't said sign up for Bitbucket Cloud.
Good question.
Anyway, doesn't
Yeah, host in the cloud, free for small teams, up to 5 users. I think that's the one. Not quite sure. Maybe they changed it recently, but I think this is it. Yeah, otherwise, yeah. So, oh yeah, so we have made a repository, and now we want to clone it. And cloning was to get that whole ball on our own computer. So once you have a connection and a password and you set it up, and it's a bit complicated to do it now, so maybe just skip it. You go into source tree, and you want a repository, and then they have a function here for remote. And I think TD Summit Alice, is that my account? Always nice to try and demo with internet, of course. Fix my hotspot up for a bit. Okay, let's try it again. Okay. Well, normally when you set up source tree, you should check there's a sort of tutorial how to set it up. And then you have to install one SSH key, so you don't have to type a password anytime anymore. It's a bit crap now. I think I have installed the wrong key this morning. But you clone your repository. That means you tell it first what your working directory is. So in this case, we were on Dev Summit, Idzard. So I just, in the root of my folder, I say this is the, oh fuck. Okay, that was a bit stupid. Sorry, I made a little error. I made a new directory, empty directory, and I call that my working directory. So I select it. And then I clone my repository into it. Duck. And I think now I'm done. Yeah. So we see our here we see where we are. So we have a master and our origin, everything is sort of in the first line. It looks a bit unclear now, but once I start adding files, it becomes a bit easier what's what. Sorry, I did it the other way around. It's easier to clone it into an empty directory and then copy your files into it. Christ, I'm making a bit of a mess here. Christ. Okay, do this a bit different. Okay, so sorry, I just messed that up a bit, but I cloned my repository to a working directory. I told it this.
The address of the repository?
Yeah, I can. This is it. But you will need, you will not have access to it now, because if you have an account, you need to be assigned and etc. Can I set it to public? That would be funny. Okay, well, I'll first start adding some stuff, and then we leave this at the end, and everybody can try to put some stuff in. So what Git does is it installs something on your computer in your empty repository, which is actually, of course, hidden. Windows, how I hate you. Hidden items, yeah. Oh, here, working. Yeah, so what Git does when it initializes or clones a repository to your hard drive, it installs, it copies this directory into it, .git. And the dot means that it's normally hidden. I've set show hidden files in my Explorer. And in it are some files, indexes, and a sort of a mini database which that it knows where it is. You normally don't ever have to use in it, but if you see .git, then you know you are working in a repository. So what I did is I copied my lobby.to file in that directory, and that's all I did so far. And now when I go back to source tree, it says uncommitted changes. And so that means that, hey, there is something happening here. And then you look at the bottom, it says unstaged files, lobby.to. Unstaged, which means we had that picture in the beginning, like working area, staging area, so this file is not staged yet. So we say, okay, well, we want to track this and want to version this. So I can click the file, and I say here, stage selected. So now it's staged, so it's in the next level, like it's in the box already, and now we want to tape up the box, and so it's gone. So we do a commit, it's a big button here left. And now I can write something here. So first framework of our project. And with every commit you need to write something. You cannot commit something without writing. And I'll advise you to write something useful, and I'll advise you to do a commit for every small part. So you have lots of commits, which also means that it's very easy to go back one step or to fix one step. And then here we have the button push changes immediately to origin master. Origin is like the shortcode of the originator of the origin point of our repository, which in this case is the Bitbucket website. So I say yes, push it immediately, give it a text, so ding commit. And that's going over my phone, well, quite quickly actually. So now we go to the Bitbucket website. And come on. And we go to the commits. And then you see the initial one was the start, and then this one, each commit has like a sort of hashtag 17 seconds ago and the message next to it. I can go into the source here on the left, and I can see already, well, we have 2 files. Okay, let's add some more. Because we had already made some more. This directory with tox files. Paste it in here. We go back to source tree, and it immediately says, "Whoa, dude, what are you doing? There's lots of new stuff." So I say, well, stage them all, and basic tox files for the modules. Push it immediately. Commit. Bam. Go back to the source, or to our commits. And now you start seeing that line here with each dot, and this line will become very long later on. So these are all the commits in our project. So oh yeah, so we have in TouchDesigner these we made these modules, and these are actually already saved out as tox files. So now we actually forgot something. I need to tell it that it's an external tox file. So you can click here and tell, well, this is the database, and I want to reload this tox on start, and well, save backup external. You can do that. And that means if it can't find the tox, it will load the backup in this tow file. So it is an external one, re-init, cool, and do it with these ones as well. Where am I, director? Re-init for the renderer as well.
Could this be scripted? Like, is that a little handle that you could write? Or is it not really worth it?
I'm not sure actually. Probably could. Yeah, sorry, I'm doing it in a bit of a complicated way here. Probably the hangover from yesterday. Network. Okay, so we did this, and then we...
What does this re-init?
Sorry?
What does this re-init?
Oh, sorry, a re-init means that it reloads the tox file.
Okay.
And so now we have saved this out. I advise you to use the preferences in TouchDesigner. And then, maybe it's already a default, I'm not quite sure, but the top one here is incremental file name on save. You can choose between off, on, and copy to back to folder. So I think standard it's set to on, that every save you do, you go 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, and in the end you have like 60 files. They finally made a lovely new version, it's on and copy to backup folder, which means you have only one tow in your root, and the rest is all saved out to a backup folder. Oh, thanks Marcus. So I accept that, and I click save. Because I had all these made these changes to the tox files. Well, let's back that up. And now we see two things here. One, he says there's an edit, that edit icon from lobby.to. And there's a question mark file called lobby.1.to, but he doesn't know what it is because we haven't staged it yet. So if we look in our working directory, we have, wait, let's save another one. Makes it a bit easier. Save, and another one, save. So TouchDesigner automatically created this backup directory, which has lobby 1.2, etc. There's lobby.to, which is our standard working file, and somehow, I have no idea why, they always keep the most recent number still in the root. That's yeah, I have to ask Michael why TouchDesigner does it. How I work around it is I go into source tree, and we have all these files here which we don't really want in our repository. So you can just click them, right click, and then you say ignore. And then it's quite clever because it comes up with this little question thing like, how do you want to ignore it? Just this exact same file, all files with this extension, or something else? Well, in this case, we want to ignore everything in the directory backup, so ignore everything beneath. Say OK, tack. And we also have lobby 3 here, which we don't want. So we also say ignore. And then we ignore with a custom pattern, which is lobby.star.to. I think that will work. Okay, so now what happened? Those files disappeared because Git is not tracking them anymore. He knows to ignore them, but we have a new file called git ignore, which was created by source tree. And if you click it, you see here the contents, and it's just a super simple text file which says backup and lobby with a wildcard, ignore those. This is a new file, and we should commit it to our repository. That means if I commit it, you clone my repository, that on your computer as well, backup will be ignored, and all those lobby wildcards will be ignored. So these two are staged, and I will commit it, and I'll ask it ignore backup. Oh yeah, cool, stage all. Ignore backup files. Push changes immediately. Okay, cool. And okay, so this is all sort of working nicely. And now checking where are we? Oh, I have to speed up.
Is it possible to change the description or the message which has been already there?
You can do once you have pushed it, it's already out there. So the only way to change something then is to do another push with a change. So we can well, for instance.
It's okay.
No, yeah, it's fine. Let's see. We can okay, so this is our root, and now we yeah, no, first I have to go on. So we have our database, our modules, and we want to write some the basic, like the placeholder functions to sort of tie it together. Which I think the best invention to TouchDesigner in the last years has been extensions. Extensions are a class of Python code which you can connect to any component. And what this means is that you can extend the functionality of each component to whatever you want. So you can, yeah, make new features and make other components which depend on that, which all have their features. So you can make one component which is a player, and then you can make another component which is the audio player, which is already derived from that. So it has all the player functions, but it adds some new audio functions. You have another component which is called the movie player, which is also coming from the basic player, so it has all the basic player functions, but adds this movie stuff, and anyway, it sort of opens up a whole world. How you do it is that you right-click comp here, and you say customize component, and you go to extension code, click it open here. They made it super easy these days. Gave it an extension, in this case it's called database ext, and you click the button add, and in it, and then you're done. So now what happened is you go into database, and there's a new text file, and which is already a full example. Can you read it? Okay. And they sort of filled it already with the basic stuff. I'm not sure how much into Python you guys are, but like this is a Python class. It's a database ext, has a description and def init, which means that the function will always be run when the class is initialized. It has set some attributes. In the beginning, this is all the sort of storage stuff, and below here are the functions. My function is with a small letter, which means it's only accessible from within this piece of code. You have promoted function with a capital P, which means you can call it from everywhere else. Well, in our case, we want to have a promoted function because in the beginning, in our where was I?
Can you please repeat the step in the parameters?
So sorry, what?
Can you please repeat the step in the parameters?
The stepping parameters?
The step you took in the parameters.
To get the step in the parameters. To create the extension, you mean? Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll delete it. And do it again. So what you do is you right click an empty base and then you go to customize component. And here, normally you see this, you click open extension code and then you write the name of your extension in this thing. In this case, the module is database and it's custom to sort of add ext to it, to the end, so that it's an extension. That's only for a visual thing, it's not very necessary for anything. So database ext, and then you press the add button, and that's it. So here's that stuff, and if we go back to our document, can you read this or not? Sort of. So we decided that we want to have a function called getEmployee, which everybody can use, and which should return a dict with some basic stuff. So if we, come on, laptop, do it. So let's start writing that now. So I advise to under Edit, Preferences, dots. You can tell which editor you want to use for text dots, and in this case I have chosen Sublime because that's my favorite editor. There's also Atom, which is free and like can do beautiful anything, and they are both super fast and small. And next to that you should set something to edit table editors. I usually use Excel. That means any table you can edit and then it will be easily open in Excel, you can work on it, and etc. So that means I can like to work in an editor, so just right click edit contents and it will open up in my Sublime editor. I will close the rest of the tabs, otherwise it gets a bit confusing. So here we are, and then we need to add another function called def employee. We start with a capital G because we want to call this function from everywhere else in our program. And then in Python you should always start a function with self, which is too complicated to explain for me, but it's just a rule. And Yeah, and in this case we only use self actually, so we don't give it any parameters. We just say get employee, and then we have a function here, and let's say result is name Idzard. What else did we have? I forgot. Oh, media. Media is photo Idzard.jpg and what else? I forgot. Description. Description is Idzard talks too much. Okay, so and then here we say return result. So that means every time you call get employee from somewhere else, it returns this placeholder data. And you press, in this case, Ctrl S, and it saves it out, and it means it's automatically saved into TouchDesigner. So you go back here and you see your text. So now we can try to calling it. And then the next thing, what I do with these big components in the root, is to give it a shortcut. So you go to Common, and then in this case I use the global OP shortcut. That means from everywhere in TouchDesigner I can call this with two things. So in this case I call it DB. So now we can save it immediately. Oh, and save our docs file. Yes. Oh, wait.
It's not automatically saved when you use these external docs files?
No, it's not. So you, when you save this file, it saves the TOW file, and here you can save the tocs.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the important difference is that I can get a tocs from you or edit some stuff, but it's your tocs and it's my TOW file. So that's sort of that's treated as different programs, different objects. Save component tocs. God, I changed my working directory. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'll do it for all, because this will. Christ. I'm a bit. Sorry?
Do you have to save all the files?
No, yeah, I changed working directories halfway when I initialized it Git in a bit stupid way. So this is only me being very stupid. Normally this would not be an issue. Working docs files fix. Working directory docs files. Okay. So recap what we did. We saved. We made an extension and it has a function which we can call now, and we saved out the docs file and we saved our TOW file. So first let's test if this works. And what I like to do is to go to this thing here and split up the panes, split left and right, so we get a new screen here. And remove this parameter window so you guys can see something. You split it up and then you can tell it what sort of pane this needs to be. And in this case we want a text port. So that means all the Python commands we execute somewhere, we can see our results here. So we're gonna test if this sort of works. And the cool thing is about those extensions and a global operator shortcut which I gave to the comp is now it's super easy to call from somewhere. So it's opdb.get.
What you used for the object, that's dot text, or what was that?
Oh, sorry, yeah. That's a text dot.
Okay.
So dot text and then you click the plus icon so you can type in it, and you can immediately write some Python in this. So in this case I'm gonna write print because I want to see it, and then op.db.getEmployee.
We don't need to import anything because op.db is global.
Yeah.
Okay.
And well, you don't need to import anything because Python is already integrated into the whole system, and you can call any object by doing op. So another way of typing this would be print op database dot get employee. Hashtag close. So like the bottom one, what you see here, this is what you write when you don't have a global operator shortcut. So you can write op and then between brackets the path to the thing you want, and then get employee. If you give a shortcut, well, you don't have to type it at all. You only have to type db because that's the name I gave to the shortcut. So let's see if this works at all. That would be cool. What?
I think you need to.
Forgetting your parentheses.
Yeah, you're forgetting the open close bracket in the function column. Right?
Oh, really?
In the method, not the set column.
After getting.
Huh? What? Oh, Christ. Oy, oy, oy. Okay, so we have an exception. The name is not defined. Name? Do we have a name? Oh. Sorry about that. Okay, here we are. Sorry, I forgot. The last what I did is I have these this placeholder that I wrote, name, media, and they need to be in quotes. So we have an extension which has some placeholder data, and we can call it from here, and we can run it, and then we see, okay, oh, it talks too much, cool, that works. So we save it out, and don't forget to save your tox file. And why doesn't it know what path this is? It's a bit strange. Oh, fuck. Oh. I'm so sorry guys that I switched working directories halfway. Makes it very confusing for you. Okay, so we have saved some stuff, and then we go back to source tree. And well, all sort of stuff has changed, and well, we're sort of happy with everything so far. So we stage it all, and then we can commit it all. And then basic placeholder for database module. Push it immediately to the master. And go back to Bitbucket. And well, so far it's all running. It's coming in. So what I would like to do now is.
Sorry, I'm making that talk, so I'm in charge of that to, like whoever works on it
Mhm.
goes into the script and adds the name in the DAG.
Well, what I
But the
usually
information
what I like to do is that what I like to do is when I set up the project in the beginning and make architecture, and suppose we work together, and then I've written a file like, okay, these are the stuff, these are the modules you build. You will build the database, and then suppose I'm the project leader.
Yeah.
Then I build this TOE file, I set up these components, I make an empty database, and maybe already even do for you the work that I add that extension
Yeah.
and add the placeholder data. And then I send the project over to you, said here, this is it should return that. And then you...
Please edit the information in the text file. Or
Yeah, so now your job would be to continue from here and then add actual database functions in it,
yeah.
but then following the format as it should return it in this format.
Mhm.
But then instead of only Idzard talks too much, it should also return whatever other employees we have in our great company. So what I said before, what my favorite workflow is the Git feature branch workflow. And what I said, you have these master line, and then you can make all these different branches from it. And so for every single feature, I would like to make a new branch. In this case, we want to build effects, and should change this as well. So we want to build some effects, and for that I will start a new branch because it's my job to work on the effects, and I don't want to bother you guys with it. So we go to source tree, and you repository branch. So click it. Said okay, well please make a new one, and you should add a new branch. So in this case I start with feature, which means it's just my thing, like every branch is either feature or release or test or whatever, or bug fix, but for every new feature it starts with feature and then feature effects. And it says check out new branch, and as I said before, checkout means choose the head of the snake where we want to go on, in which branch of the network do we want to be. So okay, start a new branch and immediately check it out. So now we see here on the branch we have the master in which we used to be, and we have the feature thing. So what I would like to do, what I usually do, and what's also the workflow of the Git feature branch, that everything which is in master should always be okay and ready to run, well, as far as it's already finished. And everything which you are working on, which is not finished, should be in a separate branch. And once you are done and it's sort of fully checked, then what we did before, you do the pull request, we talk about it, and at one point we decide, okay, this is cool, and then you merge it back into the master. So that means the master is always sort of perfect, and there's never non-functional stuff in there. But yeah, as I said before, there are different flows, but that's the one I like the most. So now we have a new branch here, and we can add some, well, let's start to add some stuff for it. So supposedly I have to make some new effects, and this effect is called black and white. And we give it top, in, and I don't know, what is it, level, and sorry, monochrome, and an out again. So we have a new thing called black and white, and if we feed something into it, then it comes out as a black and white banana. So supposedly, well, this is our first effect. It's already super impressive. And now we save out our docs file. And now if I have another, wait, first I go to source tree, uncommitted changes, and stage R commit, black and white, and immediately, and I go back into touch, and I make another effect. And this one does, I don't know, flip. So if I feed it a banana, it gets flipped. Okay, that's also, oh wait, we call it flip. And we save our component file, yes, yes. And then go back into source tree, and stage all selected, and add flip effect. Okay, so now we go back into Bitbucket and see what has happened. Refresh the page. Come on, phone, do it. And so you see there are still these commits here, because it's also showing all branches here, but I can see like, oh, see only in the branch feature effects, and if I check in the master, then there's nothing to see. And if I go to all branches, then, oh, sorry. Oh yeah. Perfect. Then it says next to it, okay, this happened in another branch, this is something else. So now that I'm quite happy with all the effects I made, because this is like super beautiful and the client will be extremely impressed. So it's time to do a pull request. And, oh wait, there's nothing here, I can do that in source tree actually. Can I? Action. God, where was it? Oh yeah, create your pull request, sorry. So on your branch where you are, and you say, okay, I'm happy now with this, create a pull request, and then it sends you actually to here. And you do a title and you do a description with it. So title is feature effects, and description. I think I'm done. Please check the flip, because maybe that's. I'm afraid something is wrong with it. And this is the cool part. We're reviewers. Well, if you're with a bigger group, you can, and you have made a team on Bitbucket, and then you can just click a user like, oh, please review my stuff, please review that, so in this case, we don't have any reviewers, we just create a pull request.
So creating a pull request is like saying I'm done, or you can check out the program?
Yeah, it's a request for you to pull it in and see what it is, and then it's my request that you approve it, and then we can merge it back in.
Does it send an email automatically or something?
Yeah. Totally. And so now we can go to the page here with pull requests. So it's already open. And it says, well, these are all the pull requests, filter by author or whatever. Well, we have one, it's feature effects, and we can click it and see what it is. I'm a bit short on time, but so the cool thing would be that you're on another computer, and there you can check it out, and that version comes in, and then you can talk about it, say this is stupid, this is not stupid, etc. And then if you're happy with it, in this case, you can, well, we can do a decline or an approve, or you can, I think under decline, you say, well, flip is bad. So we say, well, please send it back. And then so there's one pull request which is denied, and then so there are no open pull requests anymore. So I go into TouchDesigner and fix my flip because it should be vertical instead of horizontal. Everybody knows that. It's a very stupid mistake. Save out the docs file, go back into source tree, stage all, commit, fixed flip, push immediately to origin, and here we are. And I think I'm really happy now just to create another pull request. And feature effect, fixed flip for real. And here says close feature effects after the pull request is merged. That means we now have a separate branch where all these things are in. And then once somebody approves it, it gets all copied into the master line. And then this means close feature effects means that the whole branch will be deleted anymore. So the idea is that you make lots of new branches, and every time that branch has been completed and approved, then you delete it to clean it up. In the end, you have only one master line left.
If they change their minds after 1 hour?
Sorry?
If they change their minds, the client changes their minds, you have to make...
Yeah, but everything is still in these commits. So you can always go back, you still have your full version control, but it doesn't have to be in lots of different branches. There's no benefit except to make it a bit more unclear. So I create a pull request. And here we are. Now we are immediately at this page. So in this case I'm the author, but I'm also the reviewer. And I'm super happy with it because he really fixed that flip. So I click the merge button. And that means I do a commit, because this merge is another step where something is changing in my code. So that means it's a commit and I can revert it as well. Well, the commit message is merged in feature effects. So that's also handy because this text is already filled in. So if you give your branch the name feature effects, then that's also mentioned in all the commits, and it's easier for everybody to read later on. And then you can choose how you want to commit it. In this case, we use the standard one. Click merge. And now we are done. There are no more open pull requests. And if we look at our branches, then there is only the master branch, the rest is gone. And if we look at our commits, then you see this really nice line. Now it becomes a bit more clear, the graph in the beginning. This is the master, these are all the commits. This is where I made a branch and did some stuff in it, and now it's merged back in. So it's a super clear line of what you're building when, and you can imagine that this will get a bit more complicated, and in the end, if everything is okay, it sort of merges back into one. Let's see how much time. 15 minutes left. So much I want to tell. Okay, important things first is we need to fix stuff. So, let's say we, what is the best way to do? Let's say we fucked up, and we deleted. We deleted our database.tox with all the beautiful functions in it. So now it's gone, and we go to source tree, and well, we committed it, and I call it whatever. I don't know, because I made a mistake here, and I push it immediately. And so now it's, hey, Is this still working? Okay, well, let's see. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't. I was in the wrong branch, as you see here. Oh well, this is also cool. So this is something where I did something wrong. I did something wrong, and it was also in the wrong branch. So anyway, this can go. So what you do is you go here. Can I show this a little bit? Yeah. So here we have, this is our problem child, and it is in the branch feature effects, and it's also on origin in feature effects, like it's already pushed to Bitbucket. So we can right click, and we do a reverse, and you do a right click, and now it automatically made a new commit, and it just inverted everything which I had done in that first one. And now it says a little symbol here, push, because we already made a new commit, and I click push, and so you ask, okay, what do you want me to push? Well, in this case, from feature to feature. And now we're gonna check out master. We switch back again. I think pull it as well. Okay. And now I clicked right click master, and I said check out master. That means I'm now on the head of the snake of the master again, and I can and which also means that that database.tox is already back again on my drive. So it, yeah. Sorry, you had a question? Oh.
When you, there was a moment when you closed a branch,
Mm-hmm.
but then you made some changes and
Yeah, true.
opened the branch. Or
Yeah, I closed the branch, and but on Bitbucket, but on my own.
you need to pull the.
On my own, yeah, I needed to pull checkout master here because I still had it here on my source tree.
Ah, okay, okay.
So that was a bit stupid. Now, if I go back into master and create here another flip, which it is, horizontal, whatever, flip 2, and then you save this out as an effect. And now we have a new tox file, change it, stage it, and commit it, extra flip effect, push it immediately to master, and you look back into Bitbucket. There you see that the big long one is the master line, and so now we are having a new point added to that same master line. Here we had made our feature branch, we closed it in here, we merged it, and then I made a mistake where this one added, and then was another one added which corrected it, and now it's closed already. Yeah, so I don't have much time anymore. there's one thing I would like to tell you, which is like useful. If we go to, if you install Git, there are all sorts of Git clients, and I advise you to also not only install a GUI, but also install one which is command line based, because all these Git things you can also type out, and it's also easier sometimes to understand or to fix something. And one of these is called Git Bash. And in this case, I would like to show you something that cd dev summit. So now I'm in the Git command line client, and I've just navigated to our working directory. So here you can type Git commands. So for instance, Git status. And it tells you, well, you are on the branch master, your branch is up to date with origin master, nothing to commit, working with directory clean. Okay, everything is cool. Then let's add something. Dev Summit working. So we add something here, and it's text file called hello.txt. And now if I go back to the command line, type again git status. It says, okay, something is different. You are on the branch master, your branch is up to date, but we have untracked files. And it also explains already you can use git add and then the file name to include it. Blah, 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 blah. So you can totally control it also from here. So you do git add hello.txt. Well, it's added already. Now we do git status again. Said, okay, well, nothing else is there, but there is some changes to commit, and then etc. So you can, all these commit and checkout stuff you can also do from here. The cool thing is that you can also get descriptions from it. So let's say that in source tree we have made all our stuff and our project is almost finished and it's looking super cool. Then we're gonna make a tag, and the tag name is in this case version 0.1. And I can also say, well, push this tag immediately to origin. Tag name is just on a certain commit on this line, it will place a tag. And that means you can always download that version. In this case, we call this version 0.1. We add the tag and it pushes it. And so now here we have 0.1. We go, if you go to Bitbucket, overview, and you go to your source, and you go to downloads. So you have your repository here, and then you go to tags, and now you have your 0.1, and it automatically has links to a zip file, GZ or whatever. So this is super easy to to share something with your boss or whatever who doesn't have Git. So you make a tag, it adds to Bitbucket, and then you just tell them, yeah man, go to Bitbucket /downloads, and there's a zip file for you. So then other people can start to play with it. Another cool thing is, now that we have a tag name, and then we add some other stuff. Our brilliant flip effect really needs something else here.
Is there a size limit? I mean, if our talks has some media incorporated into it.
There's no size limit, but there is actually, I think, but it's quite large. But if you want to use like large files, like over a few megabytes or something, then there's a Git large file system, which has been added, and it's sort of an add-on that you can download for Windows. It's for source tree sort of integrated, and then in your bit bucket you can say please enable large file system for our repository, and then you can say from now on all the movie files should be treated as large files. It's one line in Git bucket. You could, in source tree, you can right-click a file that for all the movie files use a large file system, and then it stores it locally, but it only keeps sort of the pointers in the repository, and it works with a sort of caching system. It's all prepared for super large files, and it works really well. Okay, so we have a new added a new effect, and I save my component out. And it's a new tox file stage, and we commit this, and we say well, extra effect. What? Are we done? Okay. So everything is there, and then now we go back to our command line where we were, and we do now a git status. Nothing to commit. Now we do a git describe, and it shows me this line, and it's 0.1. That's the tag name we just gave, and then the one after that means it's tag 0.1, and after that there has been one commit. And then the last line is that hash code here, which is G11C85 something. And if you go to your commits, then you see that the last one is 8584. So this is sort of it tells you tag name, one commit, and this was the hash code to it. So this is sort of a unique way to describe your project. And the cool thing is almost out of time, that you can write this out to a text file, and in Git you have something called hooks, and hooks are things which are automatically executed by Git when something happens. So you can, for instance, say we want a hook on every time you do a pull. That means that every time I've written some code, you check it out, and you get it on your computer, and at the moment when it's there, Git executes something, and you can make up what it is yourself. So for instance, you can do Git. Okay, I'll copy this for now. I'll cheat a little bit, but you can look it up later. So now we have a sort of directory called hooks, and in this case we want post merge, and remove all this crap. And we can do git describe and do that to version.txt, and save this. And now let's see if this works. Git pull already up to date. I need a different client for this. Yeah, I'm also out of time. Well, what it does is, so remember this, you can make a git hook, and that's sort of a little text file, which is just in the directory hooks, and you can create them yourself. And then you can write a command line in it. And what I did here is git describe, and I say,
Thank you.
yeah,
See you next
cool.
time.
And I say to
You
it,
guys.
bye-bye, and I say put it into version.txt. And so what this means is that every time now, if I get it, then it writes out that log message to the text file. And you can do, for instance, if you, well, let's do it now here, git describe to version.txt. Now we have a new file called version.txt. And for instance, if you are with the client and you have to push it, or here you are on site and you really want to be sure that you have the right version, you can place a text dot here and say load it from version.txt and load on start. And now, and we call this text, I don't know, version. And now you can say in this database that it needs to operator viewer show me version. Which means every time I do a pull, I see, oh, I'm tag number 1, oh, 2 commits behind it, pop, 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 pop. So when you're on site somewhere and it's 4 at night and you want to be absolutely fucking sure that you have the right one, and this could be a trick to sort of help to get it. I really must stop.
Is it possible to keep the Python files outside of the docs files somewhere?
Yeah, totally. Oh, I totally forgot to tell you. Christ, that was stupid. Yes, certainly. So what the very important trick is to right-click your database X file, set save contents. Thank you for this question. I almost didn't tell you guys. And then in your working directory, you make a new folder. And I usually call it dots. And then save it out as databasex.py. That's the name TouchDesigner already gave it. So I save it, and now I tell this text dot that it should load from that file. And it should always load on start, and it should write whenever I save the toe. Tac, tac. And now we save our components. Database.txt, yes. Replace it, yes. And now we have our database X, and we have a new file here. We stage them, commit, and database class to external file. Push that. Christ, I can't believe I forgot this. So, yeah, this is so now I sort of externalized the whole text file to something outside, a separate file, and the cool thing is that now in Bitbucket you can see these commits, and
You can see differences, for example, which were made by any programmer who changed the file, for example.
yeah, you can see, yeah. Okay, oh sorry, yeah. So so what this does is that you see here exactly what has changed for every file. So now it's just a long blur of text. But the cool thing is that now if we go into TouchDesigner and we say, oh well, this function, we need to edit it a little bit. And instead of get employee name, there should also, we have decided that there should be something extra here. We call it city. And where I'm from Amsterdam. So supposedly that we had to add this, and we save this out, and we save a tox file. Oh, actually we don't even have to do that. We only have to pulse that it saves the text file. Then you go to source tree, and now it says, oh, we have only one. I'll delete the other one to make it a bit more. Yeah, anyway. Sorry, ignore this one. So we have only one change, which is database X, and you immediately see a nice preview here from, oh, the red line was what it used to be, the green line is the new version, and now well, we're quite happy with that. And add city. I always write in the present in these commits, because when you read it, it happens at that time. Add city to database class. And now you do a commit. And this is the cool part of sort of working together and also for yourself, because now if you go to your commits and go to the last one in Bitbucket, then you can see that super clear. It's already marked like exactly what line, which part has changed. So now in the end you can also with multiple programmers work in one extension. And like I'm busy, you say, okay, I'll add the part where you turn, I don't know, whatever. And you can start writing functions, and as long as it's in a text file, we can both commit to that and it will merge it nicely. There's so much more which I wanted to tell, but I'm sort of out of time. You guys have any questions? Millions. In that case, thank you so much. Yeah, actually I had sort of all stuff prepared to work with multiple things and together, but in 2 hours it's a bit...
Do you have to be somewhere in the next 5 minutes?
Yeah, actually I do. Yeah, so that's a bit of a... I think next time I'll do a 4-hour one. That makes life a lot easier.
There is a question on these diagrams, how to draw the diagrams. There is a nice open source option. It's called Plant UML.
Plant UML, never heard of it.
It enables you to draw the diagrams in code. PlantUML. I think com or org. Plant.
Sorry, what? Plant?
Yeah, that's the first option.
Okay.
Second is diagrams.
But is there another one? Way more
And
simple?
you can draw
Oh, yeah.
such kind of diagrams
Yeah.
with the code on the left.
Oh yeah, hey, cool.
And there are open source generators which will generate the image for you from the code, and it's quite easy.
Wow.
It's also
This is
supported
amazing.
by some environments, for example, Eclipse editor does this, NetBeans.
Okay, cool.
PyCharm does this.
Yeah, super cool. Okay, Plant UML, I'll check it out. Thanks. Okay, next time I'll do the 4-hour version. Because it's a bit too much information to ram into 2 hours, I think.
And the last step of installing Source 3, where I can connect an account, and I don't know which to choose, Bitbucket Cloud, Bitbucket Server.
Well, have you made an account on Bitbucket already?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I think Bitbucket Cloud, I'm guessing.
Cloud.
I think Bitbucket Server is...
You use your parameters dealt with.
One more question.
Yep.
I suppose you work with animators or graphic designers. They make all the big files, the movies. They have the control, or they give you the files and you have to take control of the version.
Depends. I would rather have that they have the control, because then they are in charge of their own movies, submitting them, and I can review them and then approve them. So they have also a Git account. They also use Source 3 to version their big movie files.
Okay. And they upload all the movies to the repository.
Yeah, what I just said previously. There's an addition to Git. It's called Git Large File System, and then which is specifically made for these large movie files. And I think the free version of Bitbucket only allows you to store, I don't know, a gigabyte. But if you have a paid account, you can store as much as you want. So it depends a bit on how much money you have and how interested you are in versioning backup of those movies. But sometimes if it's a smaller project, you just have only the code in Bitbucket and you have the movies bring them on a stick to the project. So it's a bit like what fits your, how important the project is or how important the backup is and how much money you have. That's sort of a decision. Okay.
I'm a little curious. I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Do you have experience working with like automated unit test frameworks and like how that would incorporate into a TouchDesigner workflow?
Yeah, unfortunately not, and I really wish I had,
Yeah, right.
because I would love to write unit tests, and I think that would improve my coding a lot. So that's sort of on the target list to finally start learning.
Yeah, it's like it's all over Python, but like I don't understand. I'm curious about how it like fits into the TouchDesigner workflow.
Yeah, well, it should match perfectly for all the classes that you write,
Right.
and for all the extensions. And as more and more is going into extension, it would be pretty good actually to have some unit tests for that.
Yeah, but you can't. If you would like normally you would just run a separate. You would run like just a separate Python script that does all the unit tests.
Yeah.
Right, or run a test. But
Yeah.
like, so how does that work with a TOE? Because they don't really. You can't really be a separate testing TOE.
Well, what you then do is you make. What I would do is that I make one base comp in our TOE file, and I call that testing or test units. And in that you give it an extension, or you write some Python code which does all the testing. And from there on, you can call all these classes and their functions
Yeah.
and check the results. And then, so actually, you would do your unit test random in TouchDesigner itself.
Right.
And then you should probably add something that it writes it out to a text file, the result, and then shuts off TouchDesigner. You can also write that in Python, like project close or something. And then, so actually, you could sort of totally batch script that, because you can start a TouchDesigner project from a batch script.
Mhm.
So it starts up and it auto runs your unit test, writes it to a text file, and closes TouchDesigner again. Then you can set that to run every night, for instance, and then every morning you come to your desk and you see the test results. So
Or
yeah,
plug it into a commit, right? So every time you do a commit, it would automatically run your tests.
oh yeah, that would be very posh.
Like a little hook or something.
Yeah, 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 super cool.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Or you can use, there are special servers for this, for example, Jenkins.
Yeah.
You know,
That was my other question.
Jenkins.
It's like how would Jenkins fit into all this?
Yeah, it has to be installed on Windows